Hi, I'm Renaldo McKenzie, the author of the Neoliberalism book series and the author of Neoliberalism Book 1 and Neoliberalism Book 2, the upcoming book in the Neoliberalism book series entitled Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Neo-Capitalism and the Death of Nations. And we are tweaking the title a bit. It's going to be entitled Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Unfair Competition and the Death of Nations, because unfair competition is not a characteristic or only of capitalism or what we now call neo-capitalism, but it is also a characteristic of other forms of economic forms. As we're talking about um, Marxism, or sorry, pseudo-communism, pseudo-communism, which is a false form of Marxism, or what Karl Marx had intended in his utopic society. But in today's episode of the Neoliberal Realm podcast, I want to share with you an important concept and an important excerpt of the book that speaks to present realities of the present day realities in the Caribbean and the world as it relates to the issue of unfair competition and how this competitive drive has come to impede post independent countries of the global south. In book 2, I write that Guyana found oil a few years ago, and many in the Caribbean had hoped that this would change the economic trajectory of Guyana, but it has not. Guyana only gets back about 12% after paying our US companies 78% for the cost of getting the crude oil. Now, recently, Jamaica found oil. The question is, will this opportunity also mirror Jamaica's experience of bauxite in 1957, when they hoped it would secure a strong and competitive economy, but ended up paying more than they received for the resource? Will it mirror what Guyana is experiencing today? In my upcoming book, Neoliberalism Book 2, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, Unfair Competition and the Death of Nations, I explore the complexities of global resource economies and how they shape the fortunes of smaller nations, particularly those in the Caribbean. One striking example is Guyana, a country that found oil a few years ago, which I'm here repeating myself. But this discovery ignited hope throughout the region that Guyana's economic trajectory would shift dramatically, propelling it toward prosperity. Many believe that oil wealth would be a game changer, driving development, reducing poverty, and creating opportunities for local citizens. However, the reality has been sobering. Despite its oil wealth, Guyana faces a situation where the benefits of the resource largely flow out of the country. Guyana retains a mere 12% of the revenue, and with 78% going to US companies to cover extraction and operational costs. This raises questions about the fairness of such agreements and whether this is another instance of economic exploitation that mirrors historical resource extractions in other Caribbean nations, and also a continuation of post-industrial countries enacting policies that continue to deepen or to create the fortunes or the misfortunes of countries of weaker nations. We have seen the issue of debt created by structural adjustment, but now we have moved beyond structural adjustment and to now, because these countries are weaker, as we think about the idea of these countries becoming emerging economies, the fact that they are finding resources, their inability, the fact, and many of these countries lack the capital intensive and that kind of capability. They are now relying on the post-industrial countries who are taking advantage of them. Now, Jamaica's experience with bauxite in 1957 is an illustrative cautionary tale. At the time, the discovery of bauxite in 1957, the primary ore used to produce aluminium, was hailed as a potential economic savior. It was thought that this newfound resource would allow Jamaica to secure a competitive position in the global economy. However, over time, Jamaica found itself in a familiar bind. The costs of extracting and processing the resource combined with in, inequitable revenue sharing agreements meant that the country ultimately paid more than it received. Instead of reaping the full benefits of its natural wealth, Jamaica was left grappling with environmental degradation and an economy that remained dependent on foreign powers. Of course, you can take a trip to parts of St. Elizabeth or Manchester, and you see what I'm talking about. Now, with the recent discovery of oil in Jamaica, there is concern that history may repeat itself. Will Jamaica's oil experience mirror that of bauxite, where the nation had high hopes of economic transformation but ended up with a resource burdened by foreign exploitation and minimal returns? The dynamics of global capitalism, where larger, more powerful countries and corporations dictate the terms of resource extraction, create an uneven playing field for nations like Jamaica. It is an unfair competition, one where smaller nations are at the mercy of multinational corporations that prioritize profits over equitable partnerships. As I discussed in my book, the current global economic system, driven by neoliberal principles, often reinforces these imbalances. Developing countries and black and brown peoples are pressured into signing agreements or into arrangements that favor foreign companies because they lack. Okay, let me change that. Let me say this again. As I discuss in my book, the current global economic system, driven by neoliberal principles, often reinforces these imbalances. Developing countries are pressured into signing agreements that favor foreign companies because they lack bargaining power of technological capacity to exploit their own resources independently. And this results in a system where nations with abundant natural resources remain underdeveloped and economically dependent despite their potential wealth. And I'm going to say this. Many years ago, I wrote an article about science and development as the key competitiveness and developing some kind of advantage. There has been no indication since 1999 to now that these countries have really sunk their teeth and taken advantage of the opportunities that to be gained from investing in information and also in growing their economies and their societies so that they can have high machines and high technology to do the kind of thing that they are relying on our post countries. And that is part of the problem. And I said to you, the Caribbean as CARICOM, they have to be able to come together to be able to identify key players in the market and countries where they can now engage in the kind of technological investments where now they can rely on each other. The challenge for countries like Ghana and Jamaica is to reconsider the terms of engagement with foreign entities and push for agreements that ensures a fairer distribution of profits. This would require regional cooperation, stronger governance, and perhaps rethinking of the neoliberal framework that has so far dominated global trade and resource extraction, which is part of the issue. As these nations look forward to the future, the question remains, can they break free from the partners or the patterns of the past? Or will the discovery of oil follow the same path as bauxite? A path marked by hope, exploitation, and unfulfilled promises. Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered, my latest book, is co-authored by Professor Emeritus Dr. Martin Oppenheimer. And it will be available shortly via store.neoliberal.com or via our Spark partners who will have the right to distribute the book globally. Now, Neoliberal Globalization Reconsidered is book 2 of the Neoliberalism book series. Book 1 was released in 2021 and is available in all formats. We're talking about hardback, paperback, ebook, and audible worldwide. And of course, it's also available at store.theneoliberal.com, or you can go to our Ingram Spark partners where it's also available. You can go to theneoliberal.com as well, or it's all where you can find out some more information, because the book has we're no longer selling the paperback for $49.99. It's now going for $39.99. And also the hardcover book is no longer 54, but it's on sale until October 31 for $49.99. You can also access other resources that we have. Our ad services is now in full gear. Our writing and paper services, our publishing services, is also available here, and we also offer web services and IT services. Please call us here at the Neoliberal at 445-260-9198, or you can email us at sales@theneoliberal.com or info@theneoliberal.com. Of course, shoot me an email by going to Renaldo C. McKenzie at gmail.com. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, Renaldo McKenzie of the Neoliberal Code. Facebook, Renaldo.McKenzie of the Neoliberal Corporation. We are also on LinkedIn at .com and RenaldoCMcKenzie.com. Subscribe for free to any of our feeds, anchor.fm/the Neoliberal, or our YouTube channel, Renaldo McKenzie. Please support us by going to anchor.fm/the Neoliberal/support.